Jean Juncker, a former Prime Minister of Luxembourg, once said while attending a ceremony in a similar war grave such as this, that if you Europeans want to not understand each other and fight amongst each other, you should come to these graveyards. You should see the sacrifice and you'll understand what happens when Europeans don't understand each other. So I'm out here today at Cheb, Czech Republic, at a German war cemetery. What makes this cemetery interesting, it is the newest and also the last German war cemetery in the Czech Republic. See, in 2008, the local Czech government gave the German Volksbund, who's the organization responsible for maintaining German war graves, this plot of land. So in 2008, it was given to the German Volksbund, and shortly thereafter, they began burying the remains of German war dead here. See, the majority of the war dead here, they were scattered throughout different graves in the Czech Republic, or sometimes even stored in depots. The idea was to give these German dead their final resting place. So that's how Cheb was established as a war cemetery. Now, this decision also had some controversy. I read that German veterans and the associations of that support that German soldiers should be buried where they died. There's also the argument saying that the German invader should never return home to Germany. And these are all arguments why and support of this German cemetery being built here in Cheb. There's also the counter argument, or from what I read, local complaints saying they don't understand why a German cemetery needs to be established in the Czech Republic when we're just a few kilometers away from the German border. But today the cemetery is the final resting place for about just over 6,000 German war dead, whether that be soldiers, people associated with the German military, or allies of the German military. For example, I've seen a few graves of unidentified Hungarian soldiers here as well. But I didn't come here to just talk about the cemetery alone. I came here to tell the stories of several different individuals who are buried here. One of them is a lieutenant general, the other is a decorated war colonel, while the others are just simple Gefreiters in the Wehrmacht. Each of them has a story, and today this episode is about their stories so we can hear them. I shed a little bit of light on some of the human suffering that occurred on both sides. There's 2 points I want to make about today's video. The first being, a large number of people who are buried here do not have a headstone. That's because they lay in a mass grave and their names are engraved on a plaque. The second, even though I did my research, I'm not an expert on these people and I could get things wrong. So if I do end up saying something wrong about one of these individuals, please fact check me so I can learn about it. So the first grave I want to talk about today is that of Lieutenant General Franz Geiger. He lays here with a shared grave with 5 unknown German soldiers. From what I could find, Franz Geiger was born on the 19th of December in 1894 in Landshut, Bavaria. He joined the army before World War I. During the First World War, he was a young engineer officer in the Königliche Bayerische 4th Pioneer Battalion, and he stayed in the engineer branch for the rest of his career. Franz Geiger stayed in uniform through the interwar periods and served during the Reichswehr and later into the Wehrmacht. Over 3 decades, he rose steadily through the ranks of the engineer branch, commanding pioneer units, serving on staffs, and eventually reaching the rank of Generalleutnant in March 1945. During the last weeks of the war, he was serving in Bohemia. Between the 8th and 11th May 1945, he went missing. After the war, he was officially declared dead. As of the 31st of December 1945, Franz Geiger held several decorations during the Second World War and throughout his military career. In 1939, he received the clasp of the Iron Cross Second Class, and on the 18th of September 1939, the clasp of the Iron Cross First Class. In March 1940, which meant he had already earned both classes of the Iron Cross during the First World War. He was also awarded the War Merit Cross Second Class with swords on the 30th of January 1943. Though his highest award was the German Cross in Silver, given to him on the 28th of June 1944 as a General Major with Army Group North. The German Cross in Silver was a high-level decoration for important military service and leadership that significantly supported the war effort, but was not a single act of battlefield bravery in the same sense as the Knight's Cross. So what's shocking to me and really stands out about this grave right here, that of Franz Geiger, is you have a lieutenant general, a Leutnant General, who is sharing a grave with 5 unknown German soldiers. It really attests to the chaos about those last days of the war, because you would think that a general, someone who achieved that rank, that status in life, would have their own grave. But no, here he's laying with his fellow soldiers. So now we come to the next person that I want to talk about, that of Oberst Bruno Weiler, a German full-bird colonel. Now his grave is a little bit different, as it's not a headstone. He is buried in a mass grave, and his name is only engraved on a memorial plaque. And here we can see the 2 different plaques with names on them for those buried in the mass graves. Among them is Bruno Weiler, who's actually one of the last, or the last name written on this plaque here. The top of the plaque says Nachtrag, which means entered later. So Oberst Bruno Weiler was an interesting fellow. He was born on the 27th of July, 1905 in Berlin. And by the end of the war, he was an Oberst, that's a full colonel, and commander of the Ski-Jäger regiment in the 1st Ski-Jäger division on the Eastern Front. He died on the 8th of May, 1945. He is buried here in the German War Cemetery at Cheb. The records place him in Block 3 and note that he is buried as an unknown soldier. So there's not a single cross with just his name. He lies among other unidentified dead. His service record is definitely distinguished. Awarded both classes of the Iron Cross, the Wound Badge in black and silver, the Infantry Assault Badge, and he was also awarded the German Cross in gold while he was serving as battalion commander on the Eastern Front. Later, he also received a Close Combat Clasp in bronze and a Tank Destruction Badge. In 1944, he was also awarded the Army Honor Roll Clasp while he was commander of the Ski-Jäger Regiment 1. In March 1945, during a night battle in Upper Silesia, he led a daring counterattack. While he was badly wounded, helping regroup his men to retake a position and drive the Soviet troops back and close a dangerous gap in the line, this action caused him to be nominated for the Ritter's Cross. However, this Knight's Cross is not officially recognized today because it was later approved under the Dönitz government after Hitler's death. While I can't 100% confirm this, I did find one source that talks about Bruno Weiler. It's from a Russian source, listing all his medals and distinguishations throughout the war. And it also states that he was captured and died on the first day of peace. So that tells me that he met the fate of countless others. An interesting man, Bruno Weiler. Based on his awards, he definitely saw some crazy stuff during the Second World War. So the next guy I want to talk about is Gefreiter Peter Halmbacher. He was born on the 19th of September 1918 and was a Gefreiter in the Wehrmacht. He died on the 23rd of February 1945 in Prague. during the last months of the war, and today he's buried here in Cheb, in Plot 8, Row 14, Grave 632. I wasn't able to find anything official about his service, just what decorations he has, and his decorations tell me something about his war service. So he had the Iron Cross Second Class and the Infantry Assault Badge in silver, and the Eastern Front Medal for the Winter Battle of 1941 and 1942. His Iron Cross and Infantry Assault Badge tells us that he saw combat, and the Eastern Front Medal tells us that he was there during the initial push into the Soviet Union. So with this information, I can tell you that Halmbacher was definitely on the front lines. He fought in at least 3 assaults and survived the Winter War of 1941 through 1942 on the Eastern Front, before being killed in Prague on the 23rd of February, 1945. So now we're going to come to the final grave and the final story of this video, that of Alwin Fussenegger. He was an Austrian sawmill worker who was drafted into the war and rose to the rank of Gefreiter in the Luftwaffe. So here is the headstone of Alwin Fussenegger. He shares a stone with Bernhard Edelkemp, Siegfried Flede, and Eger Gores. What I could find about him is he died on the 11th of June, 1945. That's more than a month after Germany's surrender. Fussenegger died in the Reserve Military Hospital in Bovislav, which is now in the Czech Republic. He was the most difficult headstone for me to find because I couldn't find his name listed anywhere online, so I actually had to go through each one to find it. But this is just another example, especially when you're seeing the picture of the individual. It just hits differently. Just like so many others, he's laying here sharing a headstone with many other different individuals. So that brings us to an end of today's video. These 4 stories of these German soldiers that we heard today is just an example of the atrocities and suffering and human element of war. It's important to remember these stories though, because such things should not be repeated. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video with the Luxembourg Prime Minister who said, if the Europeans fight amongst each other, they should come to a place like this so they know what it means when Europeans don't agree with each other. And I couldn't agree more with that statement, because when you walk into a place like that, like this, it takes you back. It makes you feel different. It's once you realize that there's rows among rows of dead people, just names on a plaque, that something like this could happen and is happening again around the world. It's important to remember these stories in an effort to prevent them happening again. Thank you for joining me on the series of their stories. I'm going to be doing some other videos in the future, so if you liked today's content or found it interesting, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and if you learned something, share it with a friend so we can grow together and I can keep telling these stories of these people and showing you these historical places together.